Okay, so I brought a whole variety. We use bits like Matterhorn because we train. And if the horse says, ooh, I don't like that, we find it something else to wear. So I brought kind of an amalgam of what we use and mostly bits that I know how to tell you how to find. Every once in a while I have one like, where's the little devil?
Like the one she broke Duncan in,
Yes. Yeah.
that was unfindable.
Yep. That's right, yeah.
And then the one that Jessica Wysocki.
The one
used.
Jessica Wysocki.
Does she still have it in?
She still has it. I
still
told her to
has
keep
it.
it. I'll see if Wilson wants to sell it to her.
Oh.
I have no idea. Like this one I know I bought at a cowboy place at Equine Affair. And I love it, but I don't think I can find it again. And the one she has, I don't think I can find again. This one, I don't think I can find again. But this one goes on my horse, so you can't have it. Alrighty. So, you know, in the world of bits, we have snaffles. And there are many, many kinds of snaffles. We use a lot of snaffles because we're breaking horses for other people and we're trying to make mouths that anybody can use. But then we've got a lot of variety of snaffle because not everybody goes in that. And a normal snaffle like this, just a simple joint, your wrist is about the width of a horse's jaw. If you do that and pull on the ring, your wrist will tell you how badly that horse's tongue is getting and jaw is getting beat up. So it has to be a horse that isn't going to get in the bit too heavily or the simple joint closes on it. So that's why I don't have very many simple joints here. This is called a Bochet snaffle. It's a French bit. You can buy it anywhere. But it's a bit designed by a man named Bochet, who was a French dressage expert. His thing was a light hand, la main légère. And so he built this so your reins hang from here. When you take and you let go, the bit always swings back to neutral. So if you have a dead hand and you're not a giving person, if you give it all, the horse gets a relief. So it was to allow the horse to not be hung on by a dead-handed person. Also, the horse can figure out for himself, if he goes like this, it releases pressure. So it helps the horse and it helps you. A lot of people endurance ride in it because they can eat in it. It's soft, it's simple. It can't pitch here or here. And it doesn't interfere with the horse in any way. And if the rider's a bad rider, it doesn't bother it too much. So I see it very commonly on endurance and competitive trail horses. It doesn't give you a major amount of control if you want a major amount of control. Now sometimes you need to say, whoa, goddamn you. But it's a nice little bit, and it's relatively light, and it's easy to find. That one's a funky color because I ran it through the dishwasher. It's what came out gold. This is another simple snaffle. Again, if you put it around your wrist, it's like, oh my God, it's going to break my jaw. For you people who like to put your hand down and pull, your Arab goes, ah, you're killing me. And that's why. It's the same joint, but its purpose is to help you turn. It's called a full cheek. When you pull on this side, it pushes the head around. It's a very simple thing, but when you see them used on the pony hunt show horses, they have a little leather keeper that goes from here to the cheek strap to keep it upright. Upright, it's a simple snaffle. If you take off the leather keeper, it becomes a killer. So you see the cute little kids on their cute little hunter ponies that are actually little bastards, and they take off the loops, and then the bit turns this way, and they can stop them. So it has two functions, but it's a basic, simple snaffle. Looks-wise, and I think it's nice to look nice if you can, this would look really fine on some of your horses. It would look really absurd on something like Donna's horse with its pretty little muzzle, or your little Acorn with its pretty little muzzle, because it's way too big, profile-wise. Even though it's a short mouth, it would fit anybody. But with these big rings, it needs a big head. So I use it to make big heads look littler. And I use it for things that don't want to steer. It's also a heavy bit. Any bit that's heavy tends to deaden the mouth because there's always the pressure of it leaning on it. So it's not good for horses that lug. But it's good for a sensitive horse like Dan's. So then we go to kind of like, what else am I going to do to still have a simple one rein function and have more control? This is another thing they use in the hunter world a lot. It's an egg butt snaffle. The egg butt is these two jobbies, the sides. It can't pitch no matter what you do. a little bit pushes the horse's head sideways. It's a very fashionable look for a hunter horse, and you always want your horse to look correct because they look at the looks. But you got to stop the son of a bitch. So this is called a corkscrew, and it literally is like having a corkscrew in your mouth, and it gets on the bars where there's nothing but skin, no flesh, no muscle, and you can really bump on a horse. You can hurt him a lot. We don't want to, but you might have to. It's also, but in its defense, it has a nice arch to it, so there's room for the tongue, room for the horse's jaw. It's very effective with a horse that has kind of a simple mouth but can get strong once in a while. Like you might put something like this on Jeannie's horse if you wanted it more responsive. Because he's just kind of like, yeah, I got the bit, but I'm not here. It's a nice, I've used it, it's a nice feeling bit to ride in, but it's more like a camouflage actually. So this is what I just drove the devil in. My horse normally goes in a driving bit, but he can't eat in it because he can't get his head to the bottom of the bucket, and he won't drink in it. But he does not like a bit that is a three-piece. He doesn't like pole pressure. A lot of things doesn't like. So he goes in this because the ring helps turn him. The mouth is arched, so there's room for his jaw. This little quarter moon gives him room for his tongue. It's copper flavored because he likes flavor. And it can't nutcracker. But he also can't put his head down and grab it because it doesn't bend that way. It's a very nice feeling bit to do a lot of work in. It's a cowboy type bit. I think I found it at Cowboy Equine Affair. I don't think I'll ever find it again. But I love riding in it. I love driving it. And that's his competitive trail bit. It really works on him. And it feels good on a lot of horses. And it's another one that's really kind of neat to use for a little more whoa, a little more answer than a simple snaffle. When you take up with that, the horse goes, oh, hi, you back there? I say, yeah, I am. There's another cowboy bit I think I found at Equine Affair. Kind of hangs just like the Bochet did from the cheeks. It will straighten every time you let go of it. Has a simple mouth with a little arch to it, so there's room for the jaw. The mouth is what's called sweet iron. It will rust a little bit, and they love the taste. So a horse that's kind of, I don't feel you, with this one goes, tasty. Like, well, your horse is moving his mouth more. And Java was totally repaired by moving his mouth. So it makes the horse more responsive. The other thing it does is you use your rein here, so it has a side pull effect for turning. It takes away from any back pull, it just turns out. Or if he doesn't need it, just put the rein around both rings, and you have a normal bit. So you can use the side pull, or not. Or, if he only doesn't turn on one side, put it on the side he doesn't turn, and leave this side normal. Then he'll change his mind, you have to change it. But it's a very useful thing. And when we're using it, I wonder which side he wants to pull on today. And again, it doesn't feel particularly heavy. So I love it, but I don't know where to replace it with. This is another snaffle. This is another one that's kind of fun for the hunter business, because the D-ring is like that D-ring that Jeannie had on, endlessly fashionable. Always want your hunter to wear a D-ring or the egg butt, because it looks so nice. It looks really simple. When I drive with this on, people say, wow, he must have a really nice mouth. I smile and go, yep. But look what's in his mouth. It's a little curve so it fits. This thing allows him to put his tongue up in it, so those who want to spit their fat tongues out have a place to put it. However, it has these two little burrs down here. So if he wants to be rude, you can hurt him. I have one of these. Wilson carved the burrs off of it, the points. And this is my horse's. He wears it with latex around the points. But he's not nice in the bridle, and he's very responsive in this thing. He goes, oh yeah, don't pull on me. And it's a really light, nice feeling bit. It has the turning, this is a very short one. Has the turning effect of the full cheek, so it helps turn. But it's really nice. John Greeno claims he invented this bit. I don't think so. Because his name is Segunda, which is Spanish. He's very English. But it's really nice when you want to just kind of sharpen up a horse and say, hello, I'm back here. And when I take the rein, I want to hear from you. The horse goes, maybe, I heard you. So these are all different snaffles to make you have different ideas. This is another one. Kind of looks like a regular old snaffle. It can nutcracker. It's square. The edges are square, so it has a little more bite to it. And these rollers move, so if the horse wants to wiggle his tongue around and move them, he can. so it keeps the nervous, floppy mouth Morgans happy. They also tend to suck a little air through it, and it makes them feel happy. And then it has a loose ring, so he can move his head around, let the bit change places, and when you pull on the ring, it moves the bit. So it changes in his mouth, so he can't be very dead in it. The Morgan I used to teach, we trained him originally, we had him for years, we sold him, we had him, he'd been around. It was the only bit he ever went well in. Had one to ride in and one to drive in. Anything else, he was an ass. So that's called a McGinnis. And I know where I get more of those, but I like that a lot. So then, those are all just simple pull snaffles. And then, if you can't work with that and you need more, this is called a Pessoa. Mr. Nelson Pessoa and his son Rodrigo, who's one of the top jumpers in the world, invented this thing. It goes the cheek here, so when you pull, it rights itself. It has a hollow mouth snaffle, so it's light on your mouth. It's a very thick mouthpiece, which a lot of horses love. The ones with the small mouths hate it. The little air mouth, they go, bleh, bleh, they're trying to gag me, bleh, bleh. So it doesn't work. But if you have a horse with a big enough mouth, they love this loose ring. And then you can attach your reins here for simple pull, or here for whoa, goddamn you, and put your head down while you're doing it. The event riders love these things cross country. They use the top ring, they use the bottom ring, and then they put their running martingale on it. And they really have the horse in it, but it's comfortable, it moves for him. So they have him in a comfortable trap. He doesn't fight too much. They used to use these a lot. Trail riding, I don't see it as much anymore. Everybody's gone to that miserable Marler thing with the cord over the nose, which I personally hate
You
because
don't like it because it's too movable.
it jiggles. The quietest hand around. Hannah's quiet hand. Can't make that thing stand still. So the horse fusses a little, or you move a little and it just keeps jiggling and jumping. The horse can never find, like Donna's horse is discovering, if you put your head into the bit, it will stay where you want it. And you can hear mom. You can't ever make that bit do that. So your horse never gets to liking it. And with not good riders, it dances and dances and dances and dances and dances. So that they never can escape from it. It's like the Marler Kimberwick. It's a little bit longer. It has a very low ring, and it twitches all the time. So the horse can never be good, get onto the bit, and stop it. From your horse discovered, get on it, stop jiggling. Casey's horse discovered, get onto the bit, it stops jiggling. But you can't stop those things. This you can stop. So that's a 3-ring Pessoa. It also comes 4 rings with yet another ring on the bottom, so you can really crank them. They don't fight this a whole lot. I don't know why. It doesn't work on my horse. He hates it because it pulls on his pole. He doesn't like pole pressure. But he has a good reason not to like pole pressure. When I got him, I said to Helen Paxton, what am I getting? How much training has he had? She said, well, it's kind of a funny story, but he really hasn't had any training because he hated his Pirelli trainer. I said, so? She said, well, it was just a really violent mismatch. I left that. 3 years later, when he was ready to go to Florida, we took him to Florida, and I clipped him for the first time, and from temple to temple, over his head, is a 2-rope scar, and you could even read the braid of the Pirelli rope in the scar. So there's a reason he doesn't like the top of his head messed with. And he's really tough. I can't bridle him. Wilson bridles him. But when you reach up there to touch him, he's just like, ooh. But it was so clear that every piece of braid shows in roan hair. So he doesn't like pole pressure. Another version of the Pessoa is called a Wonder Bit. Lucy Snooker, I'm sure several of you remember, competed in this for years. It has the same deal. It hangs from here, it rights itself. The rein goes in the bottom ring, which is set back a bit. So you can't pull quite as far as you can with a Pessoa, so it was good for her because she tended to pull. But it has a lot of bring your head down, a lot of give to it. And then this one has a pretty archy mouth, and it has a double joint. It's called a gate. It can't flop. And then it has the sacred roller in the middle. And the horse has a nerve bunch in the middle of his tongue. It's a pacifier. And when he rolls his tongue up and down this, it hits that line and pacifies it. So it's a bit that makes a lot of whoa, goddamn you, but with the pacifier, the horse goes, oh, I think I'm okay. And you can find these anywhere, but it's a cowboy bit. It's designed by the cowboy people, but it works really nicely on trail horses. And because the shank comes back, they can graze in it. Like this is another cowboy type bit called an American gag, and it's a simple joint, but because of the thickness of the bit, doesn't crowd the tongue too much. This is a very, very hard plastic. I know Jenny Kimberly's from Horse Lyric won at least 10 hundreds in it. You can see her tooth marks because she liked chewing on it. It says, whoa, goddamn you, but not really bad. It slides a bit. And then because its cheeks are back, she could eat in it. Because when you're going trail riding, you got to be able to eat. They shouldn't go that long without eating. And she could eat with that. She really liked it. And it's very, very light. No pole pressure, no pressure on the horse's lips. You do have to have a steady hand because it's not fair to be going, nyeh, 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 but it's really useful. A lot of eventers and jumpers use that. Nobody knows bits like jumper people. They're crazy. I love to watch all the garbage they ride in. This is another variation on a snaffle. Snaffle is just a single thing with rings. It has a very shaped mouthpiece, lots of room for the tongue, and no matter how you pull on it, you really can't make that space go away. It's always there. The tongue is always safe. It can move, but it doesn't pinch him. It has the sliding effect, so he can move his head and make relief, or you can pull his head down and say, look, you fool, I gotcha. And then it has two settings, so your cheek strap goes here and it suspends. You can put your rein here for a little pull, or you can put your rein here for a lot of pull, or halfway through the ride you get off and put your rein up because he's not pulling anymore. Or if he's really one-sided, you can make one side pull harder than the other. So it's a lot of variety. And it's, I think it's called a Salox mouthpiece. It's a very tasty mouthpiece. It's a soft metal, and it doesn't lose its taste. Stainless steel doesn't have any taste. So, and Heather Hoynes is always running around our neighborhood looking for old bits that are nickel because they taste good. The stainless is a cold taste, like someone stuck a pen handle in your mouth. It's not nice. So this one has a warm taste to it. I've used the same horse of mine that doesn't like anything likes that. Somebody has the other one, I think. Oh, Casey has the other one. She could use it tomorrow. And the other one she has, all the Waterfords are gone. Everybody does. Everybody borrowed. Everybody borrowed them.
Casey and you have them both.
Oh.
Yeah, they're gone, but just 'cause that's how much everybody likes them.
Yeah.
So then, if you're not going to use a saddle, sort of the next stage you go to is a Kimberwick, which is these D-shaped jobbies. And when I started riding, I was 8. I rode at a barn. It was saddle seat. And those days we had what were called saddle horses, and they were a saddle type, but they weren't American saddlebreds yet. They were more like a pleasure horse. And I didn't know you needed only one rein. I thought you had to have 2. I rode with two reins for a very long time. I think I started at 8. When I was 12, I went to Pony Club. And I thought, oh, all those poor kids, they don't know how to use 2 reins. They all had snaffles, they were riding with 1 rein. Because we had, with the barn I started at, your goal was to get so good that you could not only have 2 reins, but 2 bits. You'd ride with a full bridle, and that was our goal. Meanwhile, these kids were all riding with 1. I thought, man, they must be really dumb. They can't even handle 2 reins. So this was originally a 2-rein bit. It had a shank, another ring down here. We liked the mouthpiece because it has a big port. We liked the cheeks because they swivel but they don't jump up and down. We liked the way, see the tops turn out. So when the head bulges out, you don't pinch it. So Wilson said there's a cure for that. And he cut the shanks off and machined them flat. So I like this bit a lot because when you use it, it returns to center. It's got a big place for the tongue to hide. And then it has the Bochet effect of the ring. So you can move it, it drops by itself, or the horse can move it, and he's got a lot of place for his tongue. So we start a lot of horses in this. It can't nutcracker. With a bad-handed rider, it can't do much damage. And it's amazing. We get a lot of horses from the Morgan Show Barn. They've had a lot of bits. They train in twisty, sharp edge, nasty bits in there. Blah, blah, blah. Put this on them, it's heavy, it sits there, and they go, oh, I'm okay. We've cured a lot of show horses. Then that's sort of a descent. You could put a curb chain on it. This is an original shape of Kimberwick. Not quite as nice support, but it has one. Same cheeks, they move, but they don't slide. The ends don't turn out, so it can get too tight on his head. It has a D-ring, which we already know helps turn. And then, because you're not smart enough to carry two reins, it has two holes, so you can have a lesser hole or a harsher hole. Or, when I was at summer camp, there was a funny little girl that came from Ohio, and her trainer came with her. And she had two reins on it, like a proper Pelham. And I said to her trainer, what is that arrangement? She said she's not smart enough to handle two reins that far apart. They got to be together so she can ride them like one. She said her father puts millions of dollars in my pocket every year and says, fix it so my stupid kid can get around and get a ribbon. So that was said two little tiny reins, but she could kind of hold them together. So that's one of the uses for it. We use it. You can put it here, you can put it there, or you can put your rein on slide, and then it adjusts to where the horse is. The chain on these things, you have to make it killer tight to do any good, so it's kind of just jewelry. But a lot of horses like it. It is more severe than a snaffle, and it does say well good to you. And like something like this, or like this, any of the solid ones are good to put your running martingale on, because they'll say don't put your head up, but they don't flip-flop around with all the moving parts. This is another Kimberwick. Same rings, same options, slightly arched mouth so there's comfortable, and then it has the sacred roller in the middle. So it's gated. And this, I think we've had a dozen of these, and this is the last one we got living because we wear them out. It really is a nice bit. And a lot of horses just go to it and say, all right, I'll do what you want. I don't hate you after all. So it's really useful, and that you can find out. This is another, these things that roll around are called elevators because they lift the horse like that. This is another elevator. This one is called a Bevel. Bevel's is a tack shop in Gladstone, a very high-end tack shop. Everybody always wants something from there. And they invented this kind of bit that has the roll. The bridle hangs here. The mouthpiece does like the other ones. It's a bit of a single joint, but it's hollow, it's light, it's movable. And then down here, you have the option of the little ring to make the sliding effect, or straight back, like a regular snaffle, so it does two jobs. It's also, again, a profile and bit size for a large horse. So if you have a large horse with a mouth that big, this will look good on it. I don't remember why we bought it, except we liked it. So that's called a little S Hackamore, and it's, I don't know if you see this much now because people go into using that stupid miler bit, but this is what everybody used for trail riding for a while. Because if you've got not very good hands and a not very broke horse, you got to be able to stop, but the bits don't necessarily work. So your bridle hangs here. This goes across his nose, and this acts like a curb chain. This is called a slobber strap. The bottom thing doesn't affect him in any way. It's just so the thing can't collapse. Because if the bottom wasn't tied together, it would open. So his head goes in here, nose is there, chin is here. So you have nose pressure and chin pressure. And it has a huge amount of motion. Doesn't interfere with it. Like sometimes those miler combinations, the rope gets too low. This thing you can set up high enough so the rope doesn't get too low. Although if people are using it a lot, you'll see it with sheepskin on it because it'll dig a hole in your nose if you're not clever with it. And the curb chain is very skinny. The skinnier the curb chain, the meaner it is. So it can really pull. When I started riding hunter stuff as a kid, I rode with a very famous old white Russian cavalry officer named Captain Litauer, who brought the forward seat to this country. And he was really a bird about not hurting horses' mouths. We were all teenagers riding ex-race horses, and he wanted us to learn to do it right. We weren't allowed to pull. We weren't even allowed to pick our reins up until we could walk, trot, canter, halt back and jump and ride in company without using the reins. Well, our parents said, you're going to kill the little bitches, and he said, I probably will. But what he did was, he put a quick stop hack'em on for each of us, so we could, with a rein that was short, that just laid on the withers, so if we needed, we could grab it. And then we had, and not a corkscrew, but an egg butt snaffle like this. And that's what we were to learn to ride with. Because the race horses come off the track having been ridden in a D-ring. The D-ring is designed to make the horse lean, which is why it's wonderful for Arabs, because the Arabs go, oh my God, there's a bit there. However, with a thoroughbred, he really leans. When the horse is running, the jockey, that little scrawny guy up there leaning on the reins, acts as the horse's fifth leg. So at the maximum extension of his stride, the jockey is there with the bit to keep his balance so he can rock and leap again. And the jockeys are terrified if the horse doesn't lean on the bit. So they would lean into the egg butt. They would lean into the D-ring. So the captain wanted us to have a snaffle, but not something the horse knew. When you retrain a racehorse, you always take away the bit he knew. So he rode in egg butt snaffles, but straight ones, with the quick stop hackamore. So if we were going to get killed, we could stop. It worked really well. We all got to have good hands and good seats, and the horses had good mouths, because he wouldn't let us fight with them. He said, I'm not making that poor horse deal with that little girl. So there's pretty much a bit for anything. I have a couple more. Donna's got one. It's a series of balls connected together with a loose ring, so it'll roll for him. And he's already figured out how to move around, make it comfortable for himself. And he answers because the bit's always changing place. And Casey has the one that slides like this, that has the little balls all through it. So it's very flexible. You can't push on it because it just moves away. He's like, oh, okay, that didn't work. I'll be good. And he went from hating the bridle to staying in the bridle yesterday. Your horse stays in the bridle. Kind of fun. Oh, and this is my monkey link. This is called a Steuben Easy Control. And it has several parts that everybody else has. Hangs from here, goes back to center when you let go of it. Has the bottom ring if you want more control. Has the middle ring if you don't want as much control. It has a double jointed mouth, so it's not gonna hurt the tongue. It can go forward on either side. It can go up and down. Yeah, it locks. That's as tight as it can close. So you cannot crunch your horse's mouth with it. And they learn that. They're like, oh wow, and they go to it because they like it because it's solid. And you can be as light or as strong as you want with it, but it cannot lock on them. It's machined not to. And it's very, very light. It's really nicely made. There's no, these edges are all beveled so you can't pinch anybody. They're pretty neat. And it comes egg butt, D-ring, full cheek, and also butterfly for driving. So it's pretty well. You can get it from Dover. I'm sure other people have it, but I know Dover does because Susie found one because she rode in it yesterday. No, this morning. And her horse went, oh my, I'll be good. Anybody have any question about bits? It's my favorite topic. You have to think about what a horse is, horse's jaw, where the bit goes, only about that wide. Because it starts out wide at the jaw, and then it tapers, and it tapers, and it tapers. At the end of the molars, there's a space about that long, called the interdental space, interstitial space, either one, which is just skin on bone. That's where your bit sits. The dream is to drive or ride using the lips, because the lips are rubber. Like and the longer lips the horse has, the further they naturally go back, the harder his mouth's going to be. The short, if you look at the Arabs, most of them have a little tiny short mouth. Their lips don't stretch very well, and that's why they're so light. Your dream is to ride on the lips, have your control go through the lips. If you get heavier, or he gets heavier, it gets on the jaw, on the bone. That's when the Arabs go, you're killing me. And then there are teeth in front of that just refer to incisors. But if you look at their mouth, it comes down very narrow, right to that spot where the bit sits. So it's a pretty short area, but there does have to be room for the lips inside the cheek so they get pinched. Like, what's her face here? Jenna had on one of those Micklin bridles where the bit attaches here, the nose band attaches there. Because all the way down here, when your horse chews, his top teeth are beveled out, the bottom teeth are beveled in. As he gets to needing dental work, the ones coming in cut the bottom of his tongue, the ones turning out cut his cheeks, and then we tie a noseband around, like, you're killing me. So this bridle, she had, the bit attaches above that spot, the noseband goes below it, there's no pressure through here. I have one of those made into a driving bridle. It really works wonders. So that's another way to make the bit comfortable. Have the horse's mouth held shut, but not torture it. You take a noseband and crank it shut around teeth that need work, and I don't know why they don't kill us. 'Cause they're too nice, I guess. You always have to think about where they're gonna get relief. And how they're gonna get relief from somebody that doesn't. I'm teaching a woman right now, she has rheumatoid arthritis in her hands, and she's not a very sensitive person when you deal with her. She's nice, but she's not sensitive, she's not reactive, she's not quick. And I was teaching her with her own pony the other day, and I could see the left side of his bit going, and I could hear it bumping his jawbone. I said, can you not feel that his bit and face are bumping your hand? And she said, no, I don't feel anything. I said, take all your thoughts, think about what you're feeling in your left ring. She had contact. She said, I don't feel anything. And the bit's going bang, 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 and he's going, his eyes blinking. And she couldn't feel it. So now what do? I wrapped the bit with latex. She said, well, he'll run off. I said, no, he won't. He is a brat, he will run off. If she cannot feel the change of pressure in her hand, and I connect that to somebody's face, and I could hear it, it was heavy enough, it was on his jaw and it was banging the front molar. And his ear, I noticed it because the ear was flicking, flick, flick, flick. And then I saw his eye flicking, and I could see his lip banging. And he was being good, but she couldn't feel it. I said, well, let go of it, so she did. And when she picked it back up, he went, little guy.